Good morning, afternoon or evening, ladies and gentlemen, Allincrypto here, and welcome back, guys, for what is going to be nothing short of another jam-packed daily cryptocurrency market update. And yesterday was a monumental day for the entire industry as we saw the first Ethereum spot ETFs get traded. We're going to be looking at that. Of course, volatility was absolutely to be expected. It's very typical, and what we're going to be doing, because yesterday the market sold off, we saw quite a heavy sell pressure from Grayscale. This was actually kind of dwarfed. One comment that I got yesterday is, Grayscale is selling, who's going to buy it? Well, the other ETFs. We actually saw, I think Grayscale was about $400 million in outflows, and actually we saw over 600 in inflows. We'll talk about all of that. But yesterday was brilliant. And the beautiful thing about today is we get to look at what kind of an appetite we saw. Is there institutional interest in this asset? And I believe there absolutely is. Why would institutions be interested in crypto? Well, because if you look at crypto as a kind of separate asset class, okay, we know it's kind of correlated to the macro, or it is correlated to the macro. It's kind of a higher beta risk play, higher beta kind of NASDAQ play. But there is still this kind of concept of it being different, it being something to diversify into and increase the alpha of your portfolio. And really alpha, when people say alpha is a kind of portfolio term. That's where it comes from. And it's basically the idea of finding an asset that will minimize your downside when the markets are going down, or find kind of a discorrelation there, but exponentially increase your upside. So give you good returns whilst minimizing the downside of your overall portfolio. So increasing the returns and decreasing the downside. That's kind of what crypto offers as an opportunity. And this is why, and we're still yet to see this, most institutions, most asset managers will actually buy crypto. And we saw a massive appetite for it yesterday. So that's where we're going to be starting the video off. We're going to be comparing also the Ethereum ETF to other ETFs that are new or launched in the past 12 months, see where it stands, excluding Bitcoin. We'll be looking at, of course, iShares Ethereum Trust, which is ETH. And we're going to also be looking at the iShares Bitcoin Trust, so both offered by BlackRock, and what that did when it first launched. We're seeing the exact same thing take place. And the beautiful thing is, when we had the spot Bitcoin launch here back in the 11th of January, it dipped slightly like what we're seeing with Ethereum, and then it went on this major rally, and that is to come for Ethereum. The entire space is essentially poised to do that. We'll be breaking it all down. We'll be looking at who was sort of main perpetrator of outflows yesterday. Of course, it was Grayscale. Grayscale are a consistent thorn in our side because people want to convert ultimately. Then we'll be looking at the Bitcoin chart, a number of other charts. We're going to be talking about Tesla. We have said Tesla's going to double in price, and actually it'll probably do more than that given the recent pullback and certainly where it's at in the pre-market, but still definitely a stock to watch. And then we'll be talking about some Mt. Gox news, because obviously Mt. Gox are starting to unwind things as we knew they would. And I'm kind of glad that they are. I've been covering Mt. Gox for as long as I've had a YouTube channel. So let's dive into it. Day one in the books for ETH ETFs. Which did $1 billion in total volume, which is 23% of what the spot Bitcoin ETF on their first days. And ETH did 25%, which is BlackRock's iShares. We're going to show you this in just a second and come on to it all. Did 25% of what the Bitcoin one did. So there's a fourth of the appetite for Ethereum than there was Bitcoin. That's brilliant. Now, some people say a fourth, that's not great. No, that's fantastic. For a smaller, lot more speculative altcoin, to see a kind of quarter of the value sort of or interest, 25% of what Bitcoins were on the first day, that's massive. Bitcoin is the largest growing ETF ever. It's one of the most successful ETFs ever. It is the most successful ETF ever. Ethereum, I think, by miles, by the way, Ethereum is very much going to set precedents and kind of, it's not going to outperform Bitcoin, I don't think, but certainly we know that the interest is there. And actually, we kind of already guessed that this would be the case based on, this was around about our expectations, based on what we saw over in Hong Kong. We saw a similar thing. We saw about 30% of volume going to Ethereum than we saw Bitcoin over there, because Hong Kong, of course, had their spot ETFs before we did. So the gap between ETH and the newly born 8 is a healthy 625 million, and a sizable chunk of which should convert to inflows, which is absolutely fantastic. So if you look at this, Grayscale obviously really led the charge with 456 million. This, I believe, was outflows. So you can see, damn, that was a lot, like 5% of the fund. Not sure the 8 newbies can offset with inflows at this magnitude. On the flip side, maybe it is best to just get it over and done with fast, like ripping the band-aid off. Yeah, we saw the exact same thing when we had a Bitcoin ETF launch. Can you see this? This is exactly what Ethereum's going through right now, and it's largely led by Grayscale. I actually think it's going to be a lot less prolonged. This is a daily chart, by the way, than what we saw with IBIT, but we'll discuss that. To really kind of amplify just how successful this has been, this is another tweet from Eric Balanchunas. I was curious how the ETH ETF would rank in day one volume versus all 600 or so newly launched in the past 12 months, but excluding Bitcoin. So they're taking Bitcoin out of this equation because, of course, Bitcoin would be first by literally a mile. And the BTC ETFs and ETH, which is BlackRock's, would be number one by a hell of a lot. And you can see this. So this is huge, absolutely huge. You know, the interest here is far more than what we're seeing for many of the sort of traditional stock market instruments. Then you've got FETH, which is Fidelity's Ethereum, at number 2. ETHW at number 5. ETH at number 7. ETHV in number 13th spot. And CETH, which was the lowest amongst the group, would still rank top 10% versus the normal launches, which is just another way to illustrate how unusual all of this is. Excuse the misspellings, but this is what we're seeing is a very clear, this is a massively bullish thing for the overall space. We're seeing a very clear institutional appetite, which we already knew through CoinShares' reports with the ET that tracks ETPs, exchange traded products, when it relates to crypto. We already know institutions are very interested. They are going to pick many of the winners. If you look at Solana, why has Solana done so well? It's been solely because of institutions. And actually, when you look at retail's involvement in the space, it's not there, guys. Yeah, there's a few people buying, but compared to where it should be, or compared to where it's going to be when they open the floodgates and they start to get everybody talking about it, then by that time they'd have positioned, which is what they've been doing. If you look at who's led the kind of price movement that we've seen in the cryptocurrency space, it is institutional from start to finish, from head to toe. They are, look at where the institutions have been buying and look at what the price of these assets have done compared to the space more broadly. Institutions are absolutely leading all of this, and with the kind of enabling of the spot ETFs, that's going to see and unlock capital. So this is the first day of trading. It's up slightly in the pre-market, but it's very reminiscent to what happened with IBIT, which of course is also iShares' ETF. When they launched, you can see this was their first day of trading. And then it went down for another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days before bottoming and then going on a massive run. And of course, this would have led Bitcoin's price. So it nearly went up 100% after this sell-off. You can expect Ethereum to do actually more than that after this takes place. You know, this was kind of where, if we go to the BTC chart, remember guys, Bitcoin looks absolutely spectacular. In regards to this pullback potentially coming to an end, we're in this broadening channel. We've still got these broader targets for 151,000. But this is when the launch actually took place. And you can see dip before we then make, you know, a 90% run. A similar thing likely coming for Ethereum. If we dive over to the ETH chart very quickly, here it is. You could surmise a similar thing essentially taking place. And if it was to do the same kind of run that we saw Bitcoin do, it's going to take it well into new all-time highs. You know, you could be looking at Ethereum in the short term, in my opinion, running certainly by the end of the year into the sort of 6,000-7,000 range. Ethereum looks good. And I think is on a very similar trajectory to what Bitcoin was on. And then, of course, we've done lots of homework on the overall space. So this is total 2. This is going to have a lot of Ethereum in it because it's everything excluding Bitcoin, but, of course, keeping in Ethereum, which we think looks great. And then, of course, your digital large cap fund from Grayscale also has a lot of Ethereum in it. And if you look at how that's setting up, it's all pointing in a very similar direction. So things look good. It was great news that we saw the kind of appetite that we did. Let's stick to crypto before we sort of go off track and talk a little bit about Tesla. So Mt. Gox are now shifting $2.5 billion worth of Bitcoin to unknown wallets. Repayments top 40%. And there hasn't really been any kind of a drastic price movement, just like we said there wasn't going to be. Mt. Gox transfers $335 million in Bitcoin to Bitstamp unknown wallet. We knew this was coming. Actually, if you look at what the cryptocurrency space is doing, it's not really reacting too badly to it at all. And then let's talk a little bit about Tesla. So we have given you guys a price target for Tesla of $505. And we said you're going to form a right shoulder here. This right shoulder gets invalidated when you run the $195 range, so it can come right the way down. You might want to close these gaps. So a good bid place, in my opinion, would be $214 potentially, not financial advice. But this is likely going to set up a broader trajectory. Obviously, you've got news. And the thing that we're really interested in is obviously Tesla BTC. So if we think Tesla's going up and we're bullish on Tesla, Bitcoin is in a clear uptrend against Tesla. Which gives us kind of bullish confidence on the overall space. So that is it from me. Yesterday was absolutely huge. It's reassuring to see what we actually already kind of knew or were certainly speculating on, and that is that there's institutional interest in the altcoin market. It's not just going to stop with Ethereum. You're going to get Solana, you're going to get basket products like we already see offered in the form of ETPs and so on and so forth. And the beautiful thing is, you guys get to be positioning at the same time that the insiders are. I truly believe that. Look at the interest in the cryptocurrency space from an on-chain metric and also from a kind of Google search metric. It's non-existent, guys. That's it from me. Have a wonderful Wednesday, ladies and gents, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks all for watching, guys. See you in the next.